Thanks everyone for gathering today for this panel discussion. For our listeners, my name is Kyle Teagarden, and I'm the Product Marketing Manager for Azure Cache for Redis here at Microsoft. And the group gathered here together today has been working quite a bit together the last year to bring Redis Enterprise into Azure as a native offering. It's been fun working with everyone. It's been a great joint engineering effort. But for your sake, before we get started, let's go ahead and introduce ourselves.
Perfect. Thanks, Kyle. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. My name is Cassie Zimmerman, part of our Alliances team here. So I'm the director of the Microsoft Alliance. Been at Redis for almost 5 years. So, Amiram?
Hi, thanks for hosting us, Kyle. I'm Milan Mizne. I'm a director of product management for Redis Labs. Have been with Redis Labs the last 2.5 years, and the last year and a half been working with the Azure team to get this product for you guys. So, yeah, it's been a fun ride.
Thanks, Amiram, Cassie. I'm Yuval Mazor. I'm the Group Engineering Manager for Azure Cache for Redis at Microsoft. I actually joined the Redis team here just last summer, but I've been part of this partnership since joining, and it's been awesome to see how the group works together and to help bring this awesome product to market. So thanks for having me, Kyle.
And my name is Igu. I'm one of the program managers for Azure Cache for Redis. I've been involved with this partnership from day one. So I've seen how it started and how it's grown into this great teamwork. So it's a pleasure for me to be here today.
Awesome. Thank you all. So for our listeners that maybe are not as familiar with Azure Cache for Redis as we all are now, maybe we start with a really basic question. What is Azure Cache for Redis?
Okay, I think I can take this one. So Azure Cache for Redis, put it simply, is a hosted Redis service. It offers Redis as fully managed data stores that are operated and supported by Microsoft. Our service gives you direct access to the open source Redis API, powered on the back end by the OSS Redis software previously, but today with Redis Enterprise software as well. With either option, as a user, you get your all your favorite Redis functionality, hashes, lists, sorted sets, pub/sub, all those. And the speed that you've come to expect from Redis. I think when you use Azure Cache, you basically leave configuration and administration of Redis server to us. You get guaranteed uptime. You get built-in security monitoring, seamless scaling, and automatic software updates. All of these together with easy to use and scriptable tools. So, it's a service that, you can get started, very quickly and really, doesn't require any prior experience at all.
I like it. That was a good description. I can tell that you've been on the team for a long time, Yi. So how do people typically use it on Azure? Like, what are the main use cases, architectures that are used?
That's a good question. I think our service is used by a variety of customers, from individual developers all the way up to very large corporations. For the top use cases, these typically fall into the ones that you would expect, right? Distributed caching is a key use case. Session management is another one, as well as message brokers. Now, we are also seeing a rise in using Redis as an ephemeral store in new scenarios, particularly those in AI and IoTs. So it's really good to see this expanded use cases for Redis. I think in general, for any application that requires that fast response or high throughput or really large scale, Redis brings a lot of value and flexibility.
Yeah, I like it. So, obviously we're at Redis conference right now, and Redis Enterprise is the belle of the ball. That's the cool new thing. I say that for our friends at Redis Labs, of course, but it's true. So tell us more about this new offering that brings Redis Enterprise onto Azure. What is that about? What would users get?
Yeah, sure. So our service actually started over 5 years ago, and from the beginning up until last year, I would say it's all based on open source. We have 3 product tiers: basic, standard, and premium, all built on top of open source. And these generally have been great choices for your typical cache usage. I think what's been really exciting and unique about the enterprise tier is that first of all, now we are offering the Redis Enterprise software as a managed service, and in fact as a native Azure service. What that means is that these tiers they are hosted, certified, and supported by Microsoft. Because of that, you get all the managed functionality that previously only came with the open source tier. So these will include things like guarantee SLA, security, integrated billing. So with the enterprise tiers, I think one of the key differentiators is that it brings industry-leading SLAs, up to 5 nines with active geo-replication. These tiers, they offer higher performance as well as unparalleled scale at lower cost by leveraging on-server, non-volatile memory. They expand Redis functionality with built-in modules, which are great for application developers. And they are just as easy to set up and use as our other open source tiers. So I think all these together is a great combination.
Awesome. Thank you, Yi. That was a fantastic overview of the service and the use cases. If I could jump in here, I'd like to ask maybe Kyle, get your perspective on why does Microsoft view this partnership with Redis Labs as important, as strategic to your customer base?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I mean, I think a lot of it comes with just kind of the culture change we've had in the last 5-10 years at Microsoft, where we've wanted to shift from prescribing to our customers, this is what you should do, to just meeting them where they already are. And a lot of that is, huge efforts in the open source world to better support that and to reinvest in that world. And, we noticed with Azure Cache for Redis that we had a lot of customers that really loved Redis, and especially a lot of really big customers that had different requirements than some of the smaller customers do around availability and replication and uptime. And Redis Enterprise was something that kept coming up, and so that obviously piqued our curiosity and led to conversations with Redis Labs and then this great partnership. And I think the response we've gotten so far from our customers has really backed that up, that this is a tool that they really want and a lot of Redis functionality that they really want. And this is a great way to deliver them that directly rather than try to move them around and get them to do something else that maybe checks the boxes but isn't as good. And so ultimately it comes back to the customer. But I mean, I'll turn it back to you guys. You are the experts here. With these features on Redis Enterprise, what do you think will be a big hit to Azure customers?
Yeah, I can take that, Kyle. So I think that one of the biggest capabilities, and Yi has touched upon that, is active geo-replication. So we're seeing it opening up additional use cases for our customer base. So a classic Redis use case would be session management, for example, right? Now you can do that on a global scale without having to worry about changing your application or about having your data available everywhere and being able to write your data locally where your application is, and then cater for all those scenarios where your users are roaming, or in case you have failures or other issues. And in general, we find that customers these days are really looking for that 5 nines availability. So if you look at what this does to Azure Cache for Redis as a whole, only second maybe to DNS in terms of SLA guarantee on the Azure service, which is really important for enterprises, especially in the industries that we target, which are A, highly regulated, and B, very sensitive to these sorts of availability cases. So if it's financial industry or healthcare, they can really benefit from that. And I can give an example, and you'll hear more from them at the keynotes of day 2 of RedisConf, is Genesis, which are a provider of a call center as a service, and they are using the enterprise tiers in order to expand availability of the service and launch it worldwide.
Yeah, I love it. The combination of active-active plus being managed on existing Azure infrastructure is a really nice one, because we got a lot of data centers, so might as well run Redis on them. Yeah, no, that's great. Well, so I mean, maybe another question to you all, maybe more to Cassie, is this is a native service on Azure rather than a marketplace offering. It has been a marketplace offering on Azure in the past. What's different about this, and what do you see as the advantages of it being kind of native?
Yeah, it's a great question, Kyle. It's a question that our customers ask quite a bit as well, and we definitely see the benefits from a user experience and a developer experience. But more specifically, as a native Azure offering, it means customers are not only going to get the Redis Enterprise features, similar to what Amiram just mentioned about active geo-replication, Redis modules, Redis on Flash, a lot of the new capabilities in the enterprise tier, but they're also going to get a lot of the important integrations when running Redis on Azure. And for example, those types of things are the setup and configuration through the Azure portal, the CLI, Azure Resource Manager, and Terraform. So if you're using the existing Azure Cache for Redis tiers today and you love the experience, or you're using a different first-party service within the data suite of Microsoft, you're going to maintain that same type of experience with these enterprise tiers. It's also integrated into Azure tools for security, monitoring, etc. And I think Yi mentioned it earlier, but we also have access to those same compliance and certification standards as any other first-party service on Azure. Another really critical aspect of this is our ability to support all of the Azure regions. We're currently rolling out the service to all of those regions, but that should be completed in the next couple of months. And then lastly, from a purchasing standpoint for customers, we've made it as simple and seamless as possible for customers to really procure this and get started through the use of integrated billing and the ability to burn down their Azure commitment spend when consuming the enterprise tiers. And then, lastly, the service is totally jointly developed. It's supported by Microsoft, Redis Labs. Yi, Yuval, and a whole bunch of other folks on the Microsoft side have leaned in from the engineering and product standpoint to have really a great alignment with their peers over at Redis Labs, and thank you guys all. But I think one of the really big benefits for our customers here is they do get the best of both worlds. They get that expert support from Microsoft, and they get the expert support by Redis Labs, being the home of open source Redis, Redis by Redis, it's all we do. So the customers are always in good hands when it comes to advice for use cases, support, etc. So.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Well, I got to talk more about the joint collaboration, because there was a lot of work behind the scenes. We're not joking. We say we spend a lot of time with each other. And so maybe I'll turn it over to Yuval, responsible for building this thing. What was the collaboration between the teams like, and how did that work?
Yeah, that's a good question, Kyle. I think it actually jumps off of what Cassie was just saying in terms of building that really good customer experience. In order to do that and to make a seamless experience, you really needed a seamless integration between the teams, and it really felt like we had that. Excuse me, from the top in terms of figuring out the business model and support models and feature prioritizations and milestones. but then down to implementation. And really the two teams really quickly became, they functioned as one engineering effort. And it really was alignment down to the individual developers. Lots of technical discussions back and forth, healthy meetings, the kind of meetings you have. When I joined the team, I noticed it was more like two engineering teams in the same org, not two teams from two different companies, fighting back and forth. It was very collaborative. There are a couple examples that kind of stood out of just work kind of naturally flowing back and forth. There are metrics in Redis Enterprise that they had that we need to get them exposed through Azure. And that process of just figuring out, okay, what are the metrics? What tools do we need to build on top of that to flow it through to a customer? And so the customer experience doesn't see a seam there, right? These are just the same. You see Azure kind of metrics, you see enterprise metrics, they all look the same. And same thing the other way, right? There's Azure requirements in terms of data encryption that were really critical for us as a first-party service, and working with the Redis Labs team of figuring out the best way to sort of encrypt, within Azure, between Azure and Enterprise, and within the enterprise layer. And those, technical discussions really very collaborative. It really is sort of one set of requirements, one set of experiences. I think that shows, right? I think that will show if as customers use the product, it really should feel like a first-party offering with the advantages of Marketplace and a third party and the Redis Labs and all they bring, but none of the disadvantages. It doesn't feel like it's disconnected. That even flows to like our support model, where we really are trying to have a natural model of entry points through Azure. If you have a problem, just like any other first-party service, you come to our Microsoft support. But we have ways to engage Redis Labs, right, and to share the customer data knowingly, openly with the customer, with Redis Labs, and to get that support story, again, feeling like it's one entity. So it really has been super collaborative. Amiram, Cassie, their whole teams have worked really close with us. It's been a great experience.
Totally agree, Yuval, and it's pretty wild that this has all been, for the most part, done over Teams. When we used to meet in Redmond or in Mountain View, but now we've been able to do so much just on virtual calls, which is pretty amazing. But all right, so that my next question I think is directed towards you, Kyle, and it's about where you see or how you see Azure Cache for Redis integrating into the broader Azure ecosystem.
Yeah, well, I think we see Redis being really good in conjunction with other products. It's an accelerant in a lot of ways to application performance, and also just makes development easier. And so we ran a study earlier in the year looking at application performance with and without Azure Cache for Redis. And it was like a basic retail app, had a database tied to it, and then we took Redis away and added it and measured the performance difference. And it showed a 800% improvement in throughput performance and a 1,000% improvement in latency performance. And so, the performance benefits of Redis are huge, especially for a lot of our customers that want to save costs while boosting scale. And so I think Redis, that's kind of the bread and butter in some way, is that, and that's always going to be there. But Enterprise adds a lot of new features that'll be really useful as well. So I think of things like the Redis modules, which are basically available at no extra cost. And so a lot of people will use Redis to store inventory data or pricing data in the cache as a way to do low throughput or high throughput, low latency reads of frequently accessed data. And with Redis Search, it's super easy to add a search functionality to that inventory data. It's super fast because it's all in memory. You already have the data there. You might as well add search capability to it. And so it's this really useful, completely integrated solution that is faster and also happens to be cheaper in that case too. And I think Redis Time Series is another great example of ways to integrate. We have a big suite of IoT tools, and so tying those IoT data sources into Redis Time Series is a great way to ingest that data, process that data, and downsample that data, which is just such an elegant solution. And I think we have a customer site pro that is basically doing that on Azure today, and they saw some just huge performance boosts from using Redis Time Series. And then Amram touched on this, and we've mentioned it before, but Active Dereplication I think is maybe the crown jewel in terms of integration with Azure, because we have the infrastructure, and a lot of our customers need that reliability and that uptime. and they are distributed geographically. And so, if you have branches in multiple continents, being able to synchronize all those seamlessly, all on Azure, part of the same platform, is just such a big benefit. So we think that there are going to be some really interesting applications that come across from those features specifically. Cool. Well, I realize we're close to our time here. All of us would talk everyone's ear off about Redis if we could, but they're constraining us, of course. So maybe one last question for the group, which is any recommendations for people that want to learn more, either sessions at Redis conference they should check out, or web resources they could maybe look at to learn more about this product?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, there are multiple sessions at RedisConf, both from Redis Labs, from Microsoft, from customers who are already using Azure Cache for Redis. So you're welcome to look at the session catalog and review that. Day 2 of the keynotes, we'll have a keynote. I won't spoil any surprises. We'll have a keynote and demonstration, and our customers speaking about the service as well. And I believe that there are other available resources on the Microsoft website. I don't know, is that the documentation and or other areas you want to point to?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, as always, you can find the latest information for Azure Cache on azure.com. And that's probably, the best starting point for everything. So, there you can get an overview of what the service provides. You can find out, pricing information, and it also links off to our technical documentation. So that's a great place to get started.
Yeah, it's perfect. And we have a booth at the conference too, virtual, of course, but if you have questions, stop by and you'll recognize our faces. We'll be around to answer them. Cool. Well, Yuval, Yi, Amiram, Cassie, thanks for the time, and excited to see what's next in the partnership. And thank you, listeners, and enjoy your time at Redis Conference.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.